what is left is for the implementation, and it will require hard work, so that people in different parties will not choose your candidates for you, or because they will choose weak candidates to be able to beat them in elections.
But since it has been tried before, kwan bi a mobetumi afa so a mobetumi a use sa system we ya ada obi a onye party member ema me room and answer mo try ye no montimi anya solution bia to that problems na mo hu ye no.
No, so we start here now, especially the Brian. We didn't continue. In 2020, the year delegate system of freedom. I mean, the universal bus made a very delegate system. But now that the Supreme Court has pronounced, it becomes a judge-made law. So all the parties have to comply.
In fact, there was no prima facie. In fact, there was no.
The problem of monetization in politics ever because you are dealing with a limited number of people.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. In 2020, if you want
a case where that a check was given to a microfinance company in Ashanti region, and they said the terms were not conducive to them and that they wanted to return it by way of check. They paid them through an ABB check. Who told them that said to withdraw the money and bring cash to her. There was evidence that they brought the cash to her in Accra at Bachuna filling station in a bag. Then she then wrote something to acknowledge receipt of that money. What evidence is the Court of Appeal expecting the state to lead? Maybe they wanted us to perhaps conjure Christ to come and say he was speaking the truth. And more importantly, the person against whom that evidence was offered failed to even mount a defense. So on what basis will the court of law say that there wasn't enough evidence to warrant the conviction of this lady? Secondly, if you look at the Cantonment fire incident, where the governor of the day gave Maslog over 1.4 million Ghana cedis to distribute to these women, the auditing and the record, evidence from record shows that she disbursed not more than 800,000 Ghana cedis and pocketed over 60,000 Ghana cedis. There was another incident where she also said she was going to have training for some of the beneficiaries. And the budget for the program was 1.8 million Ghana cedis. In that instance too, she went to only 3 regions and spent only 1,300 Ghana cedis. So the 1.7 million went into a private pocket. This piece of evidence were all led before over 7 or 8 witnesses. And so I'm surprised that the Court of Appeal will come out with the judgment that there was no evidence to warrant her conviction. I can also say that the Court of Appeal has done a poor job, a shoddy job. As judges, they were supposed to look at the evidence on record, look at the existing law, come to determination of the matter.
In this position paper, this morning, the Court of Appeal issued a decision unanimously acquitting and discharging Serena Atienu Tamakulu, who was convicted of various offenses in absentia because, she was standing trial, and in the course of the trial, she sought permission to travel abroad for medical reasons and then remain in the United States for the rest of the trial. The trial court convicted her of the offenses charged, and then an appeal was filed by her lawyers in May 2024. I want this to be made abundantly clear that it was my predecessor who filed the appeal. However, coming into office, I reviewed what was filed, and I directed the Director of Public Prosecutions to file opposing the appeal, because we believe that the High Court judgment had merit. Now, with this judgment, I've also directed the Director of Public Prosecutions to file a notice of appeal and apply for stay of execution, meaning that if the stay is granted, the status quo will prevail until such a time that the Supreme Court has had time to review the appeal and then made a determination.
Final point, Jumedie Ebrena Swing. It's some 9 minutes past 7 p.m. Thursday, July 30th, the year 2026. The blessed year of our Lord. Kakra, July, Bosso Menon, so. You better treat your posse. The pepper so near a bedroom. It's been a very wonderful day. Blessed one, of course. And then they say, "Ko ye san ko ye." Emma ring free so dia said abema twedi ampa. So one kwan na wote ase. Na adwure ye kan ate ase fo amenu mienu. Ye ka ho ide. We are blessed. Abusi abedi de kusi damoa. Frebe KD. Final point Jumadi so nie. Na adwure joining in live. Joining in live. And what your social media handles, no? We are live on YouTube. Top Radio Ghana. YouTube. We are live this evening. And it's Top Radio Ghana. TikTok here, Top Radio 103.1 FM official. Facebook at your Top Radio. Twitter at X at your Top Radio Ghana. Instagram Top Radio Ghana. Website here topfmonline.com. We are live this evening and we are in charge. The name is KD. Final point. Thank you for choosing here. Thank you for welcoming us wherever you find yourself. Ghana also and Chebe Simnia Dinkomo. And so what didn't ebe hear me? Our text message and our WhatsApp message, you know. Embra Common Kosonano, Ebeje Bracken Kayama. Number of the first one is 0202 420 030. 0202 420 030. In appropriate time, the phone lines will be activated. Now, what didn't so what me afrebem e dia som ye Mamina production team na say led by Nana Agent Berima the senator as executive producer, Mr. Roger Tete, Mr. T, Mr. Kwesi Boafo, international editor 1, Odikro Kwame Ahen, Father Amache Penifo Yina Tamachi, and you may Foxy and a chef for the energy at the call social media. I tell you, Mamma Joe Amwakwaba, 7 dollars you see now. Yashasia Edi Emu and Komo. Na Enche the Constitutional Review Committee, you must know one boy, yeah, a whole report about Trabonting, and the Attorney General and Minister for Justice. Yera Dr. Dominic Anyene etumi edimu enkomo abane ginabie ewo Constitutional Review Committee recommendations ahodo no obobo bebre so edma Ghana for yebeje bre na yabo ama watie bi ebia na enne wantimi anya bre entie Attorney General and Minister for Justice ewo government's position ewo Constitutional Review Committee report and recommendation ababontino emu Enuti ehube hiase abeje bre na wadwodwo ho yie na wanya abotre tie de Attorney General etumi ekan ye nyina beka ya somewhere January ending mu ho na omampani ete a committee in an 8-member committee chaired by Professor H. Kwesi Prempe. Na members ni bi ene Justice Sophia Adinra, Professor Kwame Kakari, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, Dr. Godwin Jokoto, Ibrahim Tanko Amidu, Dr. Esi Ansa, Dr. Rena Akumbrigia, one na Wamoka committee you 8-member committee. And they omo report abeto abontia ene yewura Attorney General Edimun Komo actually government position ewo ensemno emu yebenya bre na yabo wahye da tiemu yie na yakwa ahoma no so ene mpanifo bi edi nkomo ahwe some of the recommendations are aba ene aban no position a what taking so ewo mu, and so that will be done shortly. Na yenyina tie wi a government positions no ya gebra kwa ahoma no so agdi ebi so enkomo. Then yebahwe Sedina Tamaklo Atwani and the Court of Appeal the former Maslock CEO Yura John Dramani Mahama apenso and the Court of Appeal ekwa setena ama Antonia yenyina nimu se yabor ntansa mako 78 dinigina court na ye try na absential na ntansa ni nyina bubo no ema ya convicted no ejele no for 10 years na woni o man mu entina wo se extradition process etimi ekoso abandada no ehye ase ema abrei aban we ya penso na watimi abedu o man mu a what starting 10 years jail term when cha 1 or 2 months crampo enu babia wakwa appeal ama ene judges mako miensa appeal court judges a etena so no wono miensa nyina ekire se entansa mako 78 a ye gina so edibu a sedi na tamaklofo no enye gina so bia adansidie bia enhye da nim prosecutors no anhye da nya adansie bia amfa engina so anya prosecution no ase maame no ana omototo na no ana omo ade na numu nsem ana omo de ageli no enti no entansa no nyina omabo agu 10 years no omaye free no so womra fie na omfa ne hunni kra ye bedi san komoyi esan se ebeto mu no the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Ayene, actually said, there be what you among yarding, or believe it say, High Court ruling na eba yeno, na ewo merit, na we jinaswo, enti or headed to Supreme Court. Now I say, Appeal Court ruling na aba neno, or mobe to me, assign appeal be manase, akwajimu nchemu, ewo Supreme Court. Na ono dia wajidi se, conviction na, o manu enya se prosecutors no enya ye ma ye jeli said na tamakru no e wagina so pa na me no kasai wa oda se omo enfale stay of prosecution ana execution, right? Stay of execution na che se 10 years na ka ye ja no se wo mra fie no se stay of execution no eba obekoso a wo prison until say Attorney General appeal or also pesa wo ye no watumi atoa so aye enkomoyi yebetoa so e wo fi ha na yatumi adi wei ene ensem ba ko mienu bi aka na yebesusu ho e wo final point dwumadie so na yebehase no mamani kan e ba wontie the Attorney General ne nkomo no ene government position, but then before that mame enko Mr. Boafo ho na me mana kwa ba Mr. Boafo e moajo
enia
bibia e fine de
ona Africa so aba na ye na ba so
aye mu de
ye na ye no mpota no
mpota e koso pa
oh yes sure.
Oh yes me wo
na ye would have the same ye.
Who told you the body is not there?
But me say why transitions no
information me nya actually say the body won mpota yes
me nsema hu ne pic na me hu video bi crash video ni to so a papa na kunya not o so wa kunya bi ota trem say omo de akọ
kase no ko aye na se
ya samu
but be the information amanya and say yura safo kantanka ne mortal remains no e compota.
Oh yes sure.
Yes, and how it got to importer still remains a mystery.
Because there are reports say you tell me
it will be revealed.
Yes, na. Papa na kunya ni.
Yes.
Ose ne man no 5 and I'm about to akonya no.
That's what to me nya ye wo bra wo ni body o. But I know I don't call you a dome wo honya sem ketwa. I could see otumfo.
Otumfo I think it's my hene.
Yes.
Na man cancer ayebuafo.
E ma na begina.
O no begina otumfo na mu.
The dome de ba ye nya agro.
Because na man cancer ayebuafo. Oh, you're big pa.
Also pa.
Or you're big pa, or you're big in terms of Hindi no big.
Yes.
In terms of Sikanso or big.
Yes. Otumfo I run in pub say be see my 9 ewa ye na say e domo de ba ye nya agro. Hwa domo e wo ho.
Inti no.
No wait me ye kase
because every ni abusuani spokesperson kasa Dr. Kisino. O say every nya ye because body ni ho no mo. Ono be say hu body ni say hu body no. Ono say omo de hu say omo jo mani keke. But was information said
my information just said the mortal remains of Apostle Kwadjosafo Edrum Potter.
No and I ended down a
year no coso or Bobesino.
And I saw for some body no.
That body the one who Busha the year sorry for.
Oh, but since I got so for said the room by dear car.
Yes, I wouldn't say Tawan Tower. Ain't he a bad thing? Say on be no open sir. Oh,
there be now. So when your body no kwa there.
I was all the two them.
Yes.
Ebo bi abehwe.
Yes. So they will suppose to pack and the two okata lumba ni ya man for kwa say e be da bi ne kwato ho ya hu sem bebrebe.
Wo di two them na afa ba ko no so ebo pie ho.
But what banje ban.
Well,
and for
Adwa Komando, Adwa.
Yes, from Adwa to pack.
Adwa to pack.
Ghana for Gaza.
So power so. But ni nuanom bebre so come.
Ni nuanom na ho no.
Meaning Jembiem.
Say ba mi akwa ko.
Oh yes. But you for bebre.
Ba mi akwa e.
I heard.
Me you say ba mi akwa Dr. Ba mi akwa ho no.
Enti when biem.
Ba say me hu Speaker of Parliament. Me hu amampani dada kofo. Ba say che mo sa be 31st. Independence Square. There be a honor in 24 sa na be ba hot there. E be a honey more. E be a honey more of asori for no. No mo pay respect to the papa no. Because ye na ba so emi hu pa.
Ye ne de o mai.
Adwa na ne sada yi mu no hankra mu no.
Ai. Mami o de o se hwan.
Mami o de o ho. Mami o de o ho.
Ze wo pema kuti.
Oh, mami o de. Bibia no bo. India ye na ba so.
Oh my.
Ana busafo so be foforo.
Well, let's wait and see. Ye be free chiraba.
But what now say I want me ni o.
Maybe say I am confident of information amenya say ye no body Edrum Potter. Because
there are pictures circulating on social media say heads nanka the body ni kono. It has been detained at transitions because of the High Court injunction.
Well, that is what some people believe. I just
want that's why I'm mafia pa o.
I do have a kudo.
Hey.
Na and appeals court.
Ni nya no gina ho no. Ni nya no gina ho no.
Appeals court nkomo yi o ka bi say.
I say kedi say kan say ba na bobi apusa. Abobi apusa because abobi apusa like say on say man pani ba ye no. Obejeja nkofo. Was it 8 years? Want to mean cases in the if you have evidence, I have to be convict you. Upuni, Sedu Agungo, Collins Alda, Ato Forcing, Bibrine Kakana with 8 years. When you mean prove the case, that means that when you use 8 and convict you, that means I win the case.
But the views of the law grant slowly.
Yeah, but wait,
yes, a pretty conviction.
Well, and yet, I say, now sometimes not good ones who are hunting the job. I got about for even though a lot of people express disappointment say go through and go if they are not guilty court will find them not guilty if they are guilty they will find them guilty so but when there KD the trial was ongoing na America say no dodo no or kwa America me kai say owura Alex Mood na constant charity for him na America wa mabim and then say bia near starting court
yes
the court was ongoing wa plead guilty on it dynasm no so they are going to court na America say no dodo no no say kwa na Alex Mood ko gina mu ma no ono ko na Alex Mood Mr. Alex Mood kwa ho kire no na ma na mabim na they try how to proceed. It's not like cannot for that idea on court to plead guilty whether or plead not guilty Emma any start to try no e shall see no go to America Now for all of that, the answer about also quite appeal. 78 charges.
78.
So they said, yeah, you can. Me case me the actually Deputy Attorney General Alfred Chua Yakano. So the case were clear in terms of say Cantamantifosike. Yes, if I come on 1.something million, not quite a basis 800,000 what and prosecution the evidence by so the two hotels and guest house and keka ho.
What is Sikama Bank Bosia? Bank can say interest net was a mintia. Ye return is Sikana was a more family.
Ghana must go near family.
Ghana must go Mudia Abrao, Akushi Kanaji.
Ask one fan could
one fan called baby or Seco. When you now
discuss what was in the older call workshop. Who spend 1,000 Ghana cedis out of 1.4 million Ghana cedis.
See what people are saying in what the difference in say anytime ube home come on, especially on social media no people will ask you when your judgment ni be a kind when your judgment but then the 90-page judgment you know
ni person be kind
I can say maame no ne ho ni asem bi enti no won kofi meanwhile you nim e follow proceedings.
Now, sir, Attorney General Cracker said, Attorney General, the current attorney, no question about a review. One said the court had merits on Mujel also a review. Or NDC new. Or lawyer on this, and he said, yeah, because a book, or more, but what's your review?
The 3 appeals court judges.
To me, Tiasi.
Or more hold this, say, okay, when the summary, they say, prosecution, no, and concrete evidence. Omo base on maame no ankasa nanumu nsemo ne ade na na di proving no say bia you'll have to una wo allergy a una we so prove
na me to me
beyond every reasonable doubt to say wo evidence edi adanse say ade na wo ka no nipa no aye
ba kedi se misma jo so me ye ana se makwaje 1.2 million Ghana cedis and 1.4 million se me come account man to ma omuni amache
Sikanaway.
And I'm teaching 600,000, 400,000, and I'm teaching 600,000, 800,000 over here. Who do you guys ready? So, who do you tell me about the moment? Just ready. International, somewhere Nankasana, I'm not buying Nankasana, Orano, a man for doubt. It's not surprise, eh?
You're from Munino within the 8 years or whatever. You go through all these processes. Say, they are. A kabi wo mu aban
it is a say judge no say me asem be so bi kotonto o mo jiji ni o ma na o mo jiji ni o ma no nti ai sa di bone na wo party ba dia ni abe yi opie
sa na ya kam ya
ko MPP so ba be chama wuntumi apie
sa so na sa na ye betwa to so dia ene na ye justice system no
o man kola na ni abre o
ye wo adwuma ye
o man kola na ni abre nti in case we die eji si wo ko appeal we je nyina dia ne be di akire
me o ka so ko appeal no the eba me team ne say the question that I asked myself ne say
am fa say crocodile the John
appeal now wo ko no who was the
defendant
who represented
the state
my
mama me court of appeal
me court of appeal no isn't that the state appeal
yeah attorney general department
I don't know when timi engine mu ho appeals court ho and prove say indeed sa conviction no
was right
and it had merit now when ya judgment a favor no we ye jai no public backlash no ba ye no afei may call Supreme Court. Why? Because I believe the conviction had merit. And you know want to improve you
kedi also a point
want to approve
you should have I appeal say more conviction now court high court in mind merit until you should be saved
and you so a state attorney what to now my rudi awie afei am for chance say ye hu dede no was ye
asa kedi you should be say be hu dede.
Oh yes.
Inti mami so on sama man and to wetwen ya appeal na wi ana.
Obviously wo prison ti no.
But on say kedi on say asemi kra ba ekra na mami edi from America ba and the government was not very transparent.
Oh yes.
The government was not near as you know on person and it doesn't sound well, it doesn't augur well for the government also by be ye ora. Na obi adu bone court a convict no. Near the na ba na mudi ni siesie. Ya ni ese o ha until say ti amanfo push ya na chance on the question on prison. Ebe ko na ma yesu je mo number bi ko dey fufu among minority for no that pussy among for business ma me no ansa na because ma me ni fa me ka ba no e think you say ma me no abebi a hang of God goodness because a convicted criminal court a convicted no a court of competent a convicted no or criminal oba ma me obi ehunu atu obi ehunu ma me Mami go big zero so kin busy kwa no mo na yi fried rice am e dey. Ni e checha ni e checha me kra come there dey me ameti checha me. So ti na be on ma ya kedi enye ni ye o. Yenye ni ye na me on and they say me who story be by Professor Godfrey Bokpin, one of my favorite personalities in Ghana. Me who started to me follow that professor by 7 years in here. She has been very consistent. And then there's a Prudential Bank for a year program be about how Ghana capital between the business environment. And he said that Ghana is becoming a failed state very soon. In the wake of light off, so how can I say better not the whole country light etumi off. No more than 25 hours no. They do one man yenya bi.
And round say me do fear na me need like.
Not say send a voice note.
Yes. Me could do fear around by 10:30 11 p.m.
Yes.
Na me can yamai. Me dey about around 2 a.m.
Me dey about 10:30. About 10:30. No na promotion aje ye. And now Professor Bokwe said Ghana is becoming a failed state because of say situation say light e ko. Now by 25 hours into a mile
restore it.
Now if the cost of business is very high, their numbers of money you're not business try for business abandoning to me yet. And look at people like we hear comment section now. People are like, oh, abandoning your idea. Means that our standard of our expectation of our leaders is very low. In terms of leaders, some form would be you be to my here so. And that's I think that's the problem with Ghanaians. Be to me so. But we need to touch our leaders.
Sing praises.
Yes, sing praises.
You can do more.
You can do more. We have the potential to do more. Kedi me make us a mama me buy say second term. We be make us a mama buy 5/10. Enya dey be hu bia keke. You be able to do more. One God on go biom o, on ko biom. Nti we just ogini din. Nti no man just said nam takrum tem twani. Nipo no di bono man appointment. Eno wa gu enu masin wa ko di bone. Let the deal with him. Man cover no. Ma me ba nka hang etwa hang ma me na bedu. Wadi esika wadi esika. Sika fa ko ma kantamanto ma na ma mu amudwo ma hye no wadi a. That should be state as a crocro. Ne be ya bone. Oh,
what a Felix Kwachi Ofosu.
Oh, I didn't know Becca.
Sir, what you say more to send your boy you Mohammedin. They are buying or say that perception that doesn't hold. Why? Because
judiciary is independent.
That's right.
Akufado Hona
ruling.
Akufado Hona ni I didn't go for to know come Akufado na ye. Mahamo anjo open letter come Akufado. So chichen go for. Wan twele open letter ma Akufado so. Ya na no mka nyanimo decision no na no ha no.
Unanimous decision.
Na nya Akufado no dey say Akufado manipulate judiciary no. Nya sa no mka.
But ne Felix Kwachi Ofosu say.
Dey be oba no mo ba no.
Ruling.
O mo ba nya no man go.
Empowerment.
O man go say my chief justice o man go say be you know. O man go say be you know.
Yeah.
Amanfo na idan ka ye mami ko san ko mayi no electoral commission mami enye no ma na Dr. Bosman Asaro wa resign sa ko legon yi Mr. Tetesu call retirement it mo men ye tiga ye nim dia mo ya we know how the politicians do, we know how they manipulate the system. The more nka say straight you say I treat out of Ghana separation of powers by Ghana the massa especially in developing countries no enye adwuma sa na kan bank mo chief justice Adam kamuni ma me na ye esa ba nya adwuma.
O person say government ntimi nyini hu free assembly.
Oh, ntimi nyini hu free KD.
Appeal no fa omo.
Oh, ntimi nyini hu free.
No yes na kwa appeal no ma wini.
KD me say if you want to know the reaction of Nkofo because social media people are very angry.
The appeal didn't start in this
administration.
It started 2024. Ya na ban no enya aban we nya maye.
Na ma I don't know my appeal. I chen hon man answer na ye de neighbor. I don't know how much that I don't know. I come I don't know how.
But seriously, bofu. Reaction.
You see, and no bitch a guy bitch also.
Reaction on social media no wedding.
KD or still person who receipt go to social media receipt 24 you ignore it. I'm not the who say receipt amount for gala na too late to. Ghana for ya do mo omo jejeje so sa no. Na Akufo the fans be dey am na adu premier adu dey do.
Omo sha se omo sanigu no so.
Omo sanigu so wo Ghana for bufuo ni omo fans omo na kitikiti bi o. Etesi a enu anu no etefas wa KD wo be boss ma mo. Ghana for bufuo ho. Na ma so lose 900,000 votes.
Yeah.
But me lose say no over 1.something million.
Yes.
Ghana for bufuo the massa men don't take Ghanaians for granted. Mo ye nya hu so obi akowi abanje odi na kotum na obi awi eska na so odi awe party ni ntino mo na keti na makoyi no emwa se nipa no ji se nipa no ni boni let the person go through the judicial process ni ehun o ba gba lo bi process ka bebre.
The law is the law.
The law is the law. I don't have the movement for the law is the law. KD ye mo
but the law embraso na ye
oh mra we dey master KD mra we dey me dem no dwane say wonu say onye gida no dwane ye me that's my problem can ofrata come and fight the system is also dwane akwetena brochire ma no ye started try no ha no ana odi I dwane kwetena America Colonel case no chief director na no ka ho no o yare judge ni yini sinchen judge ni yini sinchen say papa no want to me start trial so wo Ghana na o yare a judge the reason go nipa wo yare want to me start trial so it will yare anyi say dwane kwetena bro chef na party aba wa dwane aba kuku aba sha no ma ye masa
is a waffle
gang ye nyan kwala sa o
ye go ti ato
ye dwane nti ye nyan kwala sa o masa madam Vakata
o bezo bu twa fufu
na bi da KD but constitution review no me dem adeba ko na meka
good
election of this MMDC no yes aban be nipa say 5
nipa 5 na 5 no so e was say balance with
na no be 5 ye mo am ko for apply
me what be ba okay you have a point
and then ye mo am for apply
you have a point
yes
but they are going to represent the president
and your president be no one represent ye ne to abana mo adena say aban yi
no me ba in this you know Omo be represent the president, but yen ye choose who will represent the president.
President. Master. Yeah.
The local governance system no. A design say obi a DC and a MC or represent the executive. And who is the head of the executive? It is the president. And there was some president and also the interest ebum, but enyo no kwani interest in tino. Uyi 5 no year na ye ya beto so aba
criteria no be yi
na wo 5 no
criteria no be yi one dey be yi njo we yan this for nko na mbi for nko
well
KD the minimum say yes ye to ayen na open uko Lagos am to mo ba
no obi a wo municipality no
qualify my criteria should be about 30 years and above say
qualify no
go form what fail where your campaign ya trauma
o vetting now go through why your campaign
global sani ya no mayor of London Sadiq Khan or is an election or a labor ni or we ni
so you disagree with the appointment
it should not be appointed no be neko nipa 5 bi ansa na ye and then the other so there no who do say current prime minister of Britain Papa Yabe and the Bam was an one no or ya minister that do last in ya Ben Africa can be say someone will be ya let our best people go to the local government system and work there. Because all brains now that's how they can work. If the local government system work, KD, your problem you best solve. No traffic, sanitation, security, education. If they in charge, this guy, well, a minister of Tony Blair, times Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, no minister, senior minister, or result on contest a greater Manchester mayor. Yes, so quite you more quite a hormone. And then when you that confidence, I was about the prime minister. No, it's not the best. Yeah, restricted who say. Yeah, more the best
obi a wonya nimdie
obi a onimdie
paso be boara there be the local government
yeah the best people open obi engineer civil engineer so metima mayor of Accra yem fa Accra nche ne nsa no nya Accra yi na nya ye nipa 5 woni hwa na kwasi nipa 5 no aso kwasi ko no gyan kwantia e won kwa da me ni aba na nya adwen ho no mo e won kwa da me ni aba na
ya take wo
e do so by hot pen na me ho na me ya pa because yes e betu dia yen open say me kwasi bo metimi ahwe Accra so na e dia hye me nsa 5 years and 3 years na me hwe so ye wi ani ahwe so we ya de an anya ade but yes e kwasi ko no gyan kwantia
presidential term na ko 5 years no
e no kra medium ka 7 years one term me na nka za na medwe
1 term
7 years one term uba wo mabiem 7 years nto ba no aye do be nyina apreko
wow
o tetem so na o tetem pa bo djuma so na o bodjuma
o teti wa 7
but me kedi 7 years ya send dia me papa because they call court me I don't think so we even need presidential limit
okay
nipa ni good o mama develop nyina mo go for trans chair o we kwan da me check o start from 60 something 82 and so or step down Malaysia Mahathir Mohamad was started from omunya independence o debate 30 years o no develop Malaysia Mahathir Mohamad all those kind of omunya people are there Propaganda me Rwanda me I'm not a fan of him but once we transfer into 20 year develop we also transfer chance onya hwe Museveni Uganda onya hwe and opposition leader ba Kazibazije okokola so court Museveni kwa transfer was onye hu tenti no ati we need papa the province be need papa transfer to be develop very good
maybe the Ministry of Justice ne attorney
yes separating no
yes separating no obi anya na djuma Attorney General focus on your
the
judicial system no. The Ministry of Justice and also
justice mo na be here, you know.
That's right.
Chief Justice be here juma no.
Chief Justice.
Na Attorney General
you go to court and do your
oni OSP na be here juma.
Oni OSP mo call prosecute.
Onu ko because onya politician.
Ebi onya politician. Suggest we mo say I think 7 years or 10 years. Attorney General no. 10 consecutive years. 10
years. And Chief Justice. Chief Justice 10 years.
Yes.
Chief Justice 10 years, every 10 years.
On 10 years.
No, we are now call.
We are now call. Exceptions na be a age limit to what they are.
And I say
catch up with you are call. And I say be impeachment
be and I say
want to be January.
Now call.
But 10 years so there.
Oh, yeah, bad. 10 years Chief Justice will do 10 years and yeah, but so we retire by 70 something.
Yes, 70.
70, and you know, until I'm there. And I'm saying electoral commission, so I'm some making some proposal. Reporting there, if an Abana publishing in you know, as the time goes on, we are going to take bits and pieces of it in actually aspect. And now, you see, them say a general one, Nana, ever born highlight a month for Tibina.
Mamma Brenna member, and at your phone, Sabri, what do you
was it body no there or how do I mean? Who what do you know? Me, we are not my call, the confirm.
Maybe I call a confirm because the one will see what interest.
Nobody there on better than Miss Time for Honor Mitty because I'm body now. Body is what time for and transitions.
During the COVID period, I was say lockdown. Will be under. And that time we say radio for there. Get me a call air near there. You cry media card yet me quite juma. E could do Kaswa. Conformity overhead, yes, like as a soldier for age. A new crazy got them. And the body say besides and a dear someone. Lockdown now will be a nano. Or which is so much to say soldier for Abba. Jobu Baba say, the
body no
over to this all.
The body no butter.
What they call. Okay, and therefore, my United Cotier, Attorney General and Minister for Justice, and idea with me. And the Ghana for AD and come on government accountability series. With me, Ekujina 8-member committee. One more report. A more year, you know, say, ya Ghana, ya mam ran your constitution, you know. Yan such a year, Muna, such a yan saying, and was say a pen penny phobia munimude, no mudi kind ehemu. Now recommendations, Ebano, Yahu Kwaya, Yadebe Faso. Committee na yana Jumavie. Recommendations, no, Abba. Government position was some of the recommendations are eba yeno yenko na yenko enko TV. I was here higher top radio 103.1. Yakoba yebeto ankomoso.
Experts.
Top radio top radio.
All right, we're still working around. Say, you bet me no now. What you mean TB? Before that, okay, Yankutiebra.
The current president of the Republic, who were closely involved in constitutional developments in the country. And then lastly, it received and reviewed 785 written submissions from members of the public. On December 22nd, 2025, the committee presented a summary of its recommendations to the President of the Republic. Subsequently, on February 10th, 2026, the committee submitted its full report containing the final recommendations. Those recommendations are the subject of today's press conference or press briefing. The report is titled, Transforming Ghana from Electoral Democracy to a Developmental Democracy. The report is very comprehensive, well-researched, and reflects the consultative approach adopted by the committee in accordance with its terms of reference. It contains 147 proposals for amendment of the Constitution and about 59 proposals which are entirely new provisions, bringing the total proposed amendments to 206. On behalf of the government of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, I wish to thank Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh
and the eminent members of his committee, as well as the secretariat of the committee, for the excellent work done for our dear country and its citizens. Their names will forever be etched with indelible ink in the annals of Ghanaian history. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, and my fellow countrymen and women, I wish to make it clear from the outset that this is not a government white paper. The reason is that the work of the committee was not, technically speaking, the work of a commission of inquiry pursuant to Chapter 23 of the Constitution of the Republic. If that were the case, government would have had a constitutional obligation to either publish the report of the commission of inquiry together with a white paper, or give reasons why it would not publish the report of the commission or committee of inquiry. The position of government in respect of the recommendations of the committee is formulated in three ways. One, either we are accepting, that is, government is accepting, or two, it is accepting in principle subject to modification, or three, it is rejecting outright the recommendation of the committee. Where government accepts the recommendation of the committee in principle, that is subject to modification, we provide reasons why we seek to modify the recommendations. Reasons are also accorded where government does not accept the recommendations of the committee. In formulating the position on the final recommendations of the committee, government examined each recommendation against the relevant provisions of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana to assess the nature, scope, and implications of the proposed amendment. Each recommendation was then subjected to rigorous constitutional and legal analysis, including whether it touched on entrenched or non-entrenched provisions of the Constitution, and whether its underlying objective could be achieved through other legislative or administrative means. We also examined the recommendations in light of the work of prior constitutional reform commissions or committees, such as the report of the 2010 Constitution Review Commission, in order to ensure continuity and consistency in the reform process. As I've noted earlier, when I submitted a draft position paper to Cabinet, extensive deliberations were held and each recommendation was interrogated, weighed against the practical experiences of our country, and refined before Cabinet granted approval to this position paper. I have underscored the importance of this process in order to highlight the fact that the position paper being published today is not the product of one ministry or one department of government or a group of technocrats sitting somewhere in a corner and working at it. On the contrary, it is the product of the considered thoughts of the men and women who have been given the honor by His Excellency the President to run the affairs of our country within the executive arm of government. Before I turn to the highlights of the recommendations accepted or not accepted by government, indulge me a little to explain the principles that guided the formulation of the government position paper on the final report of the committee. First, government took the view that the Constitution is the supreme law and that any attempt to amend it should be done carefully. Therefore, recommendations that were considered insignificant in terms of their normative value were not accepted for constitutional amendment. The Constitution is the statement of our foundational values and structure, and not an operations manual designed to troubleshoot every problem in our society. Secondly, and this flows from the first consideration of principle, only changes that definitely required constitutional amendment were considered. Where the objective of a proposed amendment is best achieved through ordinary legislative or administrative means, a point that I have made earlier, government chose the alternative route. This approach was also animated by the fact that an ordinary statute can be amended by Parliament as circumstances change. It is not so with the Constitution of the Republic. My fellow countrymen and women, permit me now to turn to the highlights of what the government thinks is doable and in the best interest of the nation. That is the accepted recommendations. The government has accepted a recommendation to extend the term of office of the president from 4 years to 5 years. with a term of parliament extended to correspond with this. Our thinking is practical. Under the current 4-year cycle, the early months of every administration are consumed by transition matters, and the final year is largely consumed by elections. A 5-year term provides a more realistic time frame for the formulation, implementation, and assessment of government policy. Still on the presidency, the committee recommended that the minimum age of eligibility for election as president be reduced from 40 years, currently in the Constitution, to 30 years. The government has accepted this recommendation in principle, subject to one modification. The minimum age will be 35 years, not 30 years. And of course, the details of this will be fashioned out by the Constitutional Review Implementation Committee. The current threshold of 40 years excludes qualified citizens from seeking the highest office on the basis of an arbitrary age limit. 35 is consistent with a trend in modern democratic constitutions towards greater inclusivity of the youth, whilst ensuring that a candidate for the highest office has attained a measure of maturity and experience to handle that office. We have also accepted that the presidential election be held on a day in the first week of November, as the Electoral Commission may specify by constitutional instrument. A fixed period gives certainty to the electoral calendar. It allows the Commission, the parties, and observers to plan, and it ensures an adequate interval between the election and the inauguration of the incoming president on January 7th. On presidential election petitions, the government has accepted that a petition must be filed within 14 days of the declaration of results and determined by the Supreme Court within 30 days. In other words, the Constitution will be amended to specifically provide for these timelines when it comes to the electoral petitions to be filed. And there is going to be a constitutional obligation on the part of the Electoral Commission to disclose all relevant data to the court and to all the parties. We take the position that we take this position because the timely resolution of election disputes inures well to the stability of our democratic transitions and to the general political stability of our country and society. The government has also accepted the principle that the president should not enjoy tax exemptions by virtue of office alone. The president will pay taxes on his salary and allowances, as well as the applicable indirect taxes on goods and services. The government has not, however, accepted the proposal to tax the president's retirement gratuity and pension, and the details of the president's tax liability will be worked out in the tax laws where such details belong. On Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, the government has accepted that the size of Parliament be capped. Before I go to Parliament, there is the issue of ministers of state and the number of ministers of state, which is one of the very, I would say, thorny issues that has bedeviled our democracy for some time now. Government has accepted the proposal to cap the number of ministers, but instead of 57, as the committee recommended, government is proposing that it should be capped at 60. So it will be put into the Constitution that the number of ministers that any president elected by the sovereign people of this country can appoint will be only 60. And they may or may not be drawn from Parliament. Now, to Parliament. The government has accepted that the size of Parliament be capped, and we propose a ceiling of 300 members. Now, the current membership of Parliament is 276. So of these, the 276 will be elected directly in constituency elections like we already have. The remaining 24 will be elected or selected through proportional representation among women, persons with disabilities, and the youth. An independent study will be commissioned into the design of the proportional representation element. Capping Parliament saves costs, and the reserved element opens the door of our legislature wider to those our politics has historically kept on the outside. The government has also accepted a recommendation on dual citizenship. A citizen of Ghana by birth who holds the citizenship of another country will no longer be barred from contesting for election to parliament only on account of his or her dual citizenship, and will not be required to renounce the other citizenship. The current disqualification ceases uneasily with our engagement with the diaspora and with the realities of modern citizenship. In line with this proposal, it is also the case that multiple citizenship will no longer disqualify a person from becoming, from holding certain, offices, except that of a president and vice president of the republic. So the fact that you have multiple citizenship will not bar you from becoming Chief Justice of the Republic or becoming the head of the Electoral Commission or, for instance, becoming Speaker of Parliament. On to the judiciary. Regarding the judiciary, two positions deserve mention. First, the government supports a fixed tenure for the Chief Justice. That is a single, non-renewable term of 10 years or until the age of retirement, whichever occurs first. And the age of retirement of justices of the Supreme Court now is 70 years. So if these amendments come into force and a person is appointed Chief Justice, that person will serve a 10-year non-renewable term. However, if the person's retirement comes first, the retirement will take place and the person will have to exit as a Chief Justice of the Republic. The second thing that I want us to note about the judiciary is that the government supports capping the Supreme Court's membership. Currently, the committee recommended a cap of 15 justices. The government proposes 19. That is the Chief Justice and 18 justices of the Supreme Court. Now, this cap promotes efficiency, manages public expenditure, while the bench of 19 remains sufficiently robust to discharge the court's constitutional mandate. On political parties, the committee recommended an amendment to Article 55 to require every registered political party to afford its members in good standing equal voting rights in the selection of its parliamentary and presidential candidates. The government has accepted this recommendation. Just yesterday, as you recall, the Supreme Court, in the case of Professor Frimpong Boateng and others versus MPP, NDC, and others, held that all registered members of political parties should be allowed to take part in their internal elections to select the presidential candidate as well as the parliamentary candidates. And therefore, on this question, the committee, government, and the Supreme Court now speak with one voice. Political parties are the vehicles through which we choose those who govern us. In fact, they are public entities, and they cannot themselves be governed just by a few. Relatedly, the committee recommended an independent body to register and regulate political parties in place of the Electoral Commission's current role. The government accepts this in principle. However, we prefer that the designation Political Parties Regulatory Commission be the nomenclature of, instead of a registrar and regulator of political parties. So we'll have political parties, a regulatory commission. The commission will be established through legislation, and matters such as the campaign financing and the proposed democracy fund will be addressed in that legislation, providing the flexibility a rapidly evolving field demands. On local government, on the election of district chief executives, the government has gone further than the committee. The committee recommended a phased approach under which the right to elect a DCE would be tied to a district's fiscal capacity, so that some districts would vote and others would not. The government takes the position that all district chief executives should be elected. Creating a distinction between voting and non-voting districts carries significant political costs and, of course, social costs as well, and may be perceived as discriminatory against citizens of non-voting districts. Under the government proposal, the president will nominate 5 persons, 2 of whom shall be women. Out of the 5, 3 shall be shortlisted, 1 of whom shall be a woman, after vetting by a committee drawn from the Ministry of Local Government, the Public Services Commission, and the Local Government Service. Those three will then be candidates for election as district chief executive or municipal or metropolitan chief executive. On the famous Article 71 office holders and matters of financial management. To deal with the question of emoluments of Article 71 office holders, the government has also accepted the establishment of an independent Public Emoluments Commission to determine salaries, allowances, facilities, and privileges of public office holders listed in Article 71. Those include the President and other Article 71 office holders, such as members of Parliament, the heads of the Electoral Commission, NCC, the judiciary, etc. The current arrangement, under which a committee appointed by the President determines the emoluments of office holders, including the President himself, creates a structural conflict of interest and has been a persistent source of public dissatisfaction. An independent commission will bring transparency and equity to this matter once and for all. On the public financial management, the committee made far-reaching proposals. It made proposals relating to the classification and annual reporting of tax exemptions as tax expenditures, safeguards on the contingency fund, a medium-term economic framework laid before Parliament, debt anchors and fiscal sustainability rules, an independent fiscal council, and so on. The government shares the concerns underlying every one of these proposals. Our position, however, is that they belong in the Public Financial Management Act and not in the Constitution. Fiscal rules must be adaptable as economic conditions change. The Constitution should state principles. The statute should carry the procedures. The government will accordingly bring amendments to the Public Financial Management Act to give effect to the recommendations of the committee. On fundamental human rights, the government has accepted the recommendations to abolish the death penalty. Now, that is already underway in Parliament with the Honorable member for Medina, the Honorable Francis Xavier Sosu, leading the charge. So it's not new, but the committee made a recommendation on it. The relevant provisions of Article 3, 13, 19, and 72 will be amended accordingly, and offenses that previously attracted a death penalty will attract life imprisonment. The death penalty is inconsistent with the constitutional right to life and with Ghana's international human rights obligations under the UN conventions to which we are parties. Now, let me spend a moment on what I consider, in my opinion, as a key pillar of the position paper. That is what I call the proposed Human Rights Act. The committee made numerous proposals to expand the rights protected under Chapter 5 of our Constitution, including economic, social, and cultural rights, the rights of women, children, persons with disabilities, older persons, and the youth, the right to health care, the right to housing, the right to a clean and healthy environment, the right to food in custody, and many more. The government accepts the spirit of virtually all of these proposals. But here is the difficulty. Chapter 5 is entrenched, and every amendment to it requires a national referendum. Subjecting each of these new rights to a referendum would impose a procedural burden disproportionate to the gain from amending the Constitution in Chapter 5. The Constitution itself, ladies and gentlemen, shows us the way out. Article 33(5) of the Constitution provides that the rights expressly mentioned in Chapter 5 are not to be regarded as excluding others which are inherent in a democracy and intended to secure the freedom and dignity of man and woman. Pursuant to that provision, the government will enact a comprehensive Human Rights Act. The Act will elaborate on the rights already guaranteed, extend protection to the new categories of rights identified by the committee, incorporate Ghana's obligations under the international covenants I have mentioned, to which we are party, and provide detailed enforcement mechanisms, especially, resort to the High Court for redress where a human right violation has taken place. The Human Rights Act will be justiciable. It will improve standards as we evolve as a society and then as our institutional capacities develop. Most of the committee's recommendations on fundamental rights are going into the Act. And ladies and gentlemen, the Constitutional Review Implementation Committee will have as one of its tasks to be assigned by the President the enactment of the Human Rights Act. Since the coming into force of the Constitution about 33 to 34 years ago, we have not added to the rights in Chapter 5. We have usually used Article 33(5), as I've indicated, as expanding the scope of rights, but without a statute that spells out the fundamental rights that we are entitled to. In the same spirit, the government has accepted a recommendation of a constitutional right of abode for persons of African descent in the diaspora, subject to conditions set by Parliament, with a heritage-based pathway to citizenship. Ghana has a proud tradition of welcoming the African diaspora, and this provides a principled framework for the year of return and beyond the return. Parliament will legislate the criteria and safeguards, and measures will be put in place to ensure that the right is not abused. Now, I need to underscore one thing. We have taken the decision that the Comprehensive Human Rights Act, when enacted, there will be a provision in the Constitution that will prevent the act from being repealed willy-nilly by any government, except where the government secures 75% of members of the vote of members of Parliament to repeal it. On the issue of corruption and accountability, the committee recommended the establishment of an independent anti-corruption and ethics commission with the power to investigate and prosecute corruption, and to assume the functions of the office of the special prosecutor. The government accepts the proposal in principle, but the objective does not require a constitutional amendment. The government will, through the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, which is currently before Parliament, establish a public ethics commission with the power to investigate and, in some cases, prosecute acts of corruption and conflict of interest involving public office holders and their collaborators in the private sector. Its mandate would be similar to that of the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau of Singapore, but unlike that bureau, it will be independent of executive control. Ladies and gentlemen, this briefing would be incomplete without me telling you about the changes affecting my own ministry. It is not every day that a minister stands before the press to announce the splitting of his own ministry. The committee recommended removing the Attorney General's authority to prosecute corruption offenses and recommended requiring leave of the court before a prosecution will be discontinued. So, in other words, where the Attorney General wants to or wishes to file a nolle prosequi or terminate a prosecution, the commission was of the view, or is of the view, the committee is of the view that the Attorney General should provide reasons before doing so. Now, the government proposes that Article 88 be amended to remove the requirement that the Attorney General be a Minister of State. A separate portfolio of Minister of Justice will be established to oversee the justice sector, the justice and legal sector. The Attorney General will remain the principal legal advisor of the Republic and the repository of the prosecutorial authority of state, but will cease to be a Minister of State and a member of Cabinet. And to guarantee the prosecutorial independence of the office, a new clause will be inserted in Article 88 to give the Attorney General the same terms and conditions of service as a justice of the Supreme Court. This is a significant restructuring of the legal architecture of the executive, and I believe history will judge it kindly. In other words, whoever is appointed Attorney General after the amendments come into effect, if you want to remove that person, you have to go through the procedure enumerated under Article 146 of the Constitution. There has to be a petition, the determination of a prima facie case, etc., etc. I know that members of the media are used to this process, having followed keenly what has transpired within our republic. On constitutional amendment and the roadmap, government has accepted the introduction of a citizen initiative mechanism for constitutional amendment. Citizens will be able to propose amendments to the Constitution upon securing the support of registered voters, subject to minimum regional representation and gender balance requirement. The government proposes that the threshold be 10% of registered voters, rather than the 5% recommended by the committee, so that the mechanism is invoked only where a proposal commands substantial national support. The initiative will be triggered through the Council of State. The Constitution belongs to the people, and the people should be able to knock on its door directly when they show wish. Now, the roadmap is set out in this position paper for amendments of the Constitution is set out in this position paper, and it is deliberate and time-bound. Following today's publication, the President will swear in the Constitution Review Implementation Committee. The CRIC, or CRIC, will prepare 2 constitution amendment bills simultaneously. The first bill will cover the amendments to the non-entrenched provisions of the Constitution. It will follow the procedure in Article 291 of the Constitution. That is publication in the Gazette, laying in Parliament, a referral to the Council of State for advice, and passage by 2/3 majority of all members of Parliament, followed by presidential assent. The second bill will cover the amendments to the entrenched provision. That bill must travel the road prescribed by Article 290 of the Constitution. It will be referred to the Council of State by Mr. Speaker for advice. It will be published in the Gazette for 6 months, laid in Parliament, and then submitted to the people of Ghana at a national referendum for approval. For a referendum to carry, at least 40% of eligible registered voters must turn out, and at least 75% of the voters must vote in favor of the Constitution Amendment Bill number 2 in respect of the entrenched provisions. The 2 draft bills should be ready.
Plus Mr. Apomode Mapade, and one Hepa Plus Mr.
Unia, Pavi, and the Black Smokes, Mr. No, Malaria Dronana. Anne, say an answer. We beget the same wife, you tested positive. I am no. Says he a coup malaria morning, Nina. I'm in negative. Adia, 1 hour, Hepa Plus Mixer, and what do you swap? I was our immune system, a strong debia. Anti Pavi,
A support immune system, no.
Not plus mox, no so, to malaria, no good. Malaria symptoms, at a say, at paye, I fear, 1 more tour, and 1 meranomsa. Achakura 4 days, not Pavi, and the plus mox mixer, 1 mono, 2 malaria, and Asakura. And yes, I dear doctor. For 0542 778572 and 0542 807907. My dear Grady Pa Pavi Plasmox and Hepa Plus Nina. A pen for about or more manufo and Quadawa in field in your camp. Our pharmacist and her bar shop.
FDA aje Jordan Kratwayatu.
Midimafo, Pokwase Maira Accra. Midimafo, Pokwase Maira Accra.
Midimafo Heba Clinic Abakra.
And you won't hear passengers a gumika me. A Hana do one aircraft.
Hey, and this Accra and put them at the moon.
And yet the Muampa. The say dear, Atlantic International University, America Memo, about Dr. Dujan Fi Babasu, honorary degree as a professor in biology in herbal medicine. It is said here, I am more. Oh, Mr. Minim wife, your copa war. 1 year, 1 city. You send me 2 months and 8 years. Mr. Mikonation and Shadam Koye, na Esakakra. To say what Pedro Mama, what young them.
Connection, what
about the crowd? Stroke so dear, what found small. Tessa, I did what woo any dear Siano. Yaria Bia Tatia, ever Dr. Tamdaso and so. Diabetes, hepatitis B, prostate, hypertension, malaria. Yaria Bia. Kumasi say, oh, opposite government school. No. And then Krahanso, Obepim, or Pokuase, Maira Kwanoso. For a doctor, 0244 774 282.
And at 0500 727215.
Midimba for Herbal Clinic.
Woodima for Newa. Oluman Boogie. Oh, yes. Someone
wunu sadie first edition no ekoye. Yes, second edition yidie. Oh, abaya the rough anti be register sesia. Our top radio. So when you're 55 years ekwa, with the unkai say registration no e free. Oluman Boogie season 2 yi. So with the enkunimua, with the life changing money. Sikas sani pasha bre and the coffee. And the achade bebre. The same mobile phones. Any TV. Oluman Boogie season 2. So when you're 55 years, and twinkle will not secra. Nasadia season 1 no. A jibe biano. Season 2 yi. A baya fanta bruta. Kayo. Sa Oluman Boogie season 2 Jumedie. Yabayin live. Our top TV show. At the top 103.1. And all our social media platforms. Oluman Boogie season 2. Asa ama pomodin. Yam papa mu eba chireye. Asamu amamre eni amanye. Sa opasa season 2 yi. Obe sponsor ana penchire mu biya. Fre 0503 711 344 0503 711 344. Oluman Boogie. We am a dance papa. Oluman Boogie. Asa papa eni.
Kura wuye wina.
Semi jira ha na me de jiwa ase jiwa ada romanti ene me kunu aye bema enkane me kunu from pa sma me enu na abese enso ene otumi kwa ejuma ma ne me manamo
no so semi jira ha me de jiwa ase me san de benyina me ti de bi ko moto tu am to dembre semi jame nan ya iti moja se da obaya wa bu ne nsa
me ne me yire adwa yentimi enwo no ene jiwa ada romanti ya wo me ensa yo to so nan ehye yefunu a oba monka me ho nyefa aseda ma jiwa nyuma pa wa yenti ene nyango pontetre won pia no won kwaba mu ama sabre wa ya yaresabe kese pa ye fro won jiwa homeopathy hospital ya de hudu bi ti say stroke enwedwe yade omutu ase kura blood pressure prostate disorder anase cancer kokuram yade STI mechire nam yade hudu nyina te se baba so chlamydia ene de keka ho nyina ana yade hudu bia ewodi jiwa etu ase jiwa ya adwuma fi kwasi ade tu kwasi ada from awo 0249 359797 jiwa wo Wija Junction top base kwan so ne nkrabata wo mamu afana nyina
jiwa homeopathy hospital
jiwa bema wa ye fresh
Oluman Boogie. Oh yes. Someone said here first edition no ekoye. Yes. Second edition yidie. Oh. Abaya the rough anti be register sesia. Our top radio. So when you're 55 years ekwa. With the unkai say registration no e free. Oluman Boogie season 2 yi. So with the enkunimua. With the life changing money. Sikas sani pasha bre and the coffee. And the achade bebre. The same mobile phones. Any TV. Oluman Boogie season 2. So when you're 55 years and twinkle will not secra. Nasadia season 1 no. A jibe biano. Season 2 yi. Abaya fanta bruta. Kayo. Sa Oluman Boogie season 2 Jumedie. Yabayin live. Our top TV show. At the top 103.1. And all our social media platforms. Oluman Boogie season 2. Asa ama pomodin. Yam papa mu eba chireye. Asamu amamre eni amanye. Sa opasa season 2 yi. Obe sponsor ana penchire mu biya. Fre 0503 711 344 0503 711 344. Oluman Boogie. We am a dance papa. Oluman Boogie. Asa papa eni.
Kura wuye wina.
Enti anya atwe ne gina hoi ebe yo no a osane pa hello madam
Hey nana me hu wache
Hey enti atwe wuni oh in fact why you kesi o hu so aye fe pa
ya mia every bra wo de me call thanks to you computer clinic ba ye no na ma me hu aye fe na me ye de nyina kosa no
Hey send pa yira ye modua sentra oh in fact why you fine na enkoda ye wo ma na ntafo yi
ai mia me ma set na me bra wa wo hu pa o na so ye free thanks to you computer clinic ba ye tafo nyina ya memma
oh
mi fiefo mabusuafo wo bia yade a ehwa na ye kro
oh sa
ai
oh ene wa yade abusuafo ena da me ka kire no atwe na nanse ne ho ayefa wanya ntafo ekura wo mo fefefe sa no ni nyinaa yɛ thanks to you computer kɛsew koraa deɛ fidia sɔtoɔ bebree abɛka ho yareɛ wodoɔ bebree wɔ hɔ so a wɔsa thanks to you computer clinic wɔn wɔ kua no ɛfiri so ho nkɔ asɛmankɛse kwantempɔn no so pɛɛ sɛ wohia thanks to you computer clinic a frɛ no wahoma yi so 0545 252880 thanks to you computer clinic bra bɛgye ahoɔden
Oluman Boogie. Oh, yes. Someone who said here, first edition no ekoye. Yes. Second edition yidie. Oh, abaya the rough. Enti be register sesia. Our top radio. So when you're 55 years ekwa. With the unkai say registration no are free. Oluman Boogie season 2 yi. So with the enkunimua. With the life changing money. Sikasi sandi pasha bre. And the coffee. And the achadi bebre. The same mobile phones. Any TV. Oluman Boogie season 2. So when you're 55 years and twintwe wo na sekra. Na sadia season 1 no ejiba bia no. Season 2 yi abeye fanta bruta. Kayo sa Oluman Boogie season 2 jumadi yi. Yebeye ni live our top TV show. Any top 103.1 and all our social media platforms. Oluman Boogie season 2 asa ema pomuden. Yam papa mu eba kire yen asamu amamre ene amane. So person season 2 yi obe sponsor ana penchiremu bia fre 0503 711 344 0503 711 344 Oluman Boogie we am a dance papa Oluman Boogie asa papa eni kura wu ye winner.
Aha, Cecilia, the Nagana for training nyina ababedu. Na yepe estate company waton sase eton danse woniema. Our professional workers ya. O make my own down where you nyina ma. Na fee and ababedu. Edino and sap Mary Estate and Last Limited. A fee so better sase kopeso besu dana wie nyina. Wamba buaw. Ye won sase ni bebre. Ye obi ewo denchira obenfo. Sanso na denchira hone se. Any government school din hwe animu. Denchira Kantanta Valley eben kromu pa. Ebi so ewo hobo a eben Ijano. And so one in Potamusu, you will be our Yakoko, our Kumasi, any Accra Pantipon one. As you boy, Ade Sudanso, teacher Mante, Utra police station now. You will be our Pony Behe and San Crampon Wabetobia, a Trebiama. Casuanso, your Casua Buguata, Sap Mary Estate in Kwan at Ton Assassin Emawa, or Dinkrata, Semina Kahoma free. Nadia Dennis said, we bet me the 5,000 Ghana in the pet and Yassassi. No what you had Yakanaka Krakakra. Na Sembana dancing when Yamadia, say and Adwa, cement, roofing sheet, iron rods, and I said, Yea, or when you never be was sent to a professional workers, make a year down Webjuma, set carpenters, masons, plumbers, tea vendors, and they can win you never be elbow. Ain't it so for Tassasi? I was Sub Mary Estate and Lancer, wouldn't be problem be ye mount a new document near Southwell Show. I was you done a suji, waiting your friend Director Nankasa. I was 0243 009 451, and I said 0550 001 500. You chat to me 0265 963 380. South Mary Estate and Last Limited, and yes, see, ye bemo, yeah, if you ra.
Enti anya train ejina hoi. Ebe yo no a, osane pa. Hello, madam.
Hey, nana, me won watch. Hey.
All right, Abusia Yamaya Huakwaba is still live here on Top Radio 103.1. Final point, Jumedie and a Guso and a Sumway. Now, some 21 minutes past 8 p.m. Yabetwaso now, Kobe Wilson, Ewaha, Kobe Wilson, a constituency communications officer at the NDC. Abonyokuno, Mamikonichena, Menkomano, Akwaba. Senior East Constituency Communications Officer for the NDC. Kobe, good evening.
Good evening. It's been a long time.
Very long time.
I think since we left us in the Senior East, I haven't been able to see or meet you before. You need to meet Sheldon. Na oya kwen kasa da man nti atwe na belo nche no wakra ha dey yemfa na simotwede ponkwame na fi yemfa fili nchia yen mensinfo mikire
Kobi obe twaso na menya brama na watimi aye wotia no bibia but me nkwa homa no so tentem quick one na me nin komoy emra sisia head of the Youth Alliance for Democratic Development in Ghana YADD Yera James Kofi Ninti ewo ahoma no so Kofi me mawajo edeba Top Radio.
Nje so
wana ro ma se bibia bokọ nwumre
Yesu adom kwa wozo
Nyankopon adom bibia bokọ pa yenim sa mo ye emabunu eku a mo pre na mo pushi se ensatraye betumi aba mamramu na fe so mamra no ensatraye no aban no betumi aye no public ama oman no obia timi ehu bi na adwenkyere bi a obia wo no watumi edi aba and Minister for Justice and Attorney General wo Government Accountability Series etimi bobo government position committee reporter ababonten no eho omayenya nte say it will be made public ama obia so etimi ehu bisanso na Constitution Review Implementation Committee so enche omampani beso ni in beso mu in na its implementation no omahu hawa ebesi akro the whole process any baby ababedri will take a woman anything
Medase Mechia wati for ni Ghana for nyina monti top TV top radio nyimle Youth Alliance for Democratic Development I Ghana a youth group pay reforms in the constitution from 2020 coming. Na NJ Dakes Youth Alliance for Democratic Development, Youth Ghana in every review our constitution. I didn't think America sir. Share reporter mentioned that any report in every year. Then kakra ma heni kakra every day. Me who is near preset. And 24 billion Sakaye, 1992 constitution, maybe good governance, Able Ghana. No? President Mahama, any leadership, my ye, dear, ye pepper, Katamiti, just a Michemua. They may hear a corruption, you come mine. I think you know, or stands for a year militant practice. Omo esanso lawyer for the government. The government now money that point is cost corruption. Omo nipa na se omo chom corruption now omo as a prosecutor court. It will there be almost because the case is in court. Within one some said the ekusi. It is a preset. Minister of Justice any attorney general will be separated. There should be an independent body that will handle the corruption and each prosecutorial processes.
Kofi ho. Kofi utimenka. Abusia yene James Kofi Ninte enaguso edin komoyi. The head of the Youth Alliance for Democratic Development. All right, Yentuaso.
Yeah.
Nietzsche, okay. Thanks for the correction.
Yeah, Nietzsche, don't be dear. I said, good.
All right.
And now worthy. Right. Papa.
Nietzsche, all right. Thanks for the correction. Yankwe.
And to say the American, Attorney General now, or some so here, Abamu Nipa now, or some politician, and Luti. Say corruption issues bow abemua you to ninja so fast will be and the here or say president Nina for my recommendation now committee need by now to say almost an independent body will be responsible for handling corruption and corruption related issues for us. It's a holiday that Yamiasi and Yesu I say so what's President Mahama or the other this time round and then upon for Omuye Bibi Amagana ye dachi ebesakra. Yes, also everywhere. Also, president, any parliamentarians, you know, parliament, you know, see how much as it is 276. Now the outcome is 300. You know, almost the more youth, any women groups are missing. As the Mahama, Nami insel no apanfo. Nami insel no apanfo. Say, Oko, Amama Kestia, Maji Dia, Oma youth no representation in lawmaking.
network no hard dream, but you go so share. James Kofi Niche Eguso Din Komo, or a head of the Youth Alliance for Democratic Development, Ghana, YADD. Kofi, Odaso Ho. Kofi Niche. All right, yeah, Twaso here in the studios. Yeah, Twaso here in the studios. Now, network and hard dream pa. Kobi, my member won't say a view na. Yan Twaso ha.
Yedi mejodo na a quick one. I mean, me find check as if I'm me constituent and our branch executives na chairman Ajare and all the officials of the party. Kaswa out to Senior East constituency. So basically, if I heard your man speak,
which of them?
The one just made the
Kofi Niche.
Yes, was one association here by the Youth Alliance for Democratic Governance.
Youth Alliance for Democratic Governance.
Yeah,
development.
Democratic development. Or one president.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I agree with him on so many things, and then it's a good thing that the government of the day, the Attorney General, is doing for us. Because President Mahama sets agenda for the country, the NDC, what we are championing, is to make sure the country is set on the right path. Now, abandon Botande to carry every Ghanaian along for development, for the progress we want to achieve it together. So we are leaving nobody behind. Unless, of course, that one pede Ebekahoma or manage and work with him in good faith. So that is why one, yet it's a man, ye board or man for Kankono. Na Bonibia so woman, ye film. As I say, Bob Meta say, cleanness next to godliness.
Yes.
A petty upon no tsna fear na bibia kodujua. Or say, huni.
Yeah.
Or say, I saw man ye dian huni. When we bring home. So some of them that came, for example, recommendations that came that he spoke of talk about the youths that will be included in our parliamentary system and our governance. It's a very key. Because whatever decision that we are the ultimate beneficiary. So I'm not mind. In the words is that you don't have our representative in parliament to speak for us, as I say, to participate in the decision making. As I say, again, the other aspect of in this world of advancement, people with disability and co. You see, one disability, it does not mean a person's inability to do anything. And it's good that Abani NDC has shown consistent concern for such people. Anytime anything is in government, you see that people with disability, their burden is our burden, and we make sure we carry them along. And most importantly, you could see the percentage that has been reserved for women. NDC has been pacesetters in this governance, in this mining growth, to give women the opportunity to participate in governance, in leadership. I think NDC so far, since we had our Fourth Republic, we have demonstrated fairly enough that we want our women that form chunk of our population that contributes about 80% of our nation building to be part of our leadership. And I think it's one of the things that I'm so happy about. Now, our young ladies will be more inspired because we have a female who's a vice president. We have, when you take major of our, most of our institutions, talk about the EC, talk about everywhere that you cast your eyes around, women have been given the opportunity. And our banning information, you saw that women and youth have been, in fact, creditably what? Considered. And to me, we expect that, we are setting the foundations proper. So that Abano Frumba, or Chinebi, in the next maybe 40 years' time now, or Abano, that's a Sabi, NDC, in Aban Biwa, Nafi, Abano, Obasayama. It's helping us to what? Get our records right. As I say. And he also touched on justice system.
Yes.
You know, one of Nyama over the years, Naninkan came upon through the last 8 years under the disguise of democracy. rule of law. People will just destroy our country. People will just come in with so much corruption and destroy our country. Political party, one of our essence is to recruit people with human resources, with that capital to be able to what? Man the affairs of the country. In saying political party are the right mindset, not the right caliber of human resources, they will come and recruit looters and thieves. People who are so corrupt-minded. People that when you see them, between the interval between them and corruption, just a blink of an eye. Look at what happened to us. Now we can have a whole finance minister after manning our finance ministry for almost 8 years. The man just left, booted, and doesn't want to come back home for accountability. Such thing shouldn't happen again. And say, yesterday we are giving much attention to how we can prosecute corrupt officials. It's worth giving. And I mean, the example Mahama and the NDC have set to wash our hands from anything corruption is one thing I'm proud of. If I'm proud of the NDC because we have washed our hands of anything corruption. And see, I will be I don't say command Japadibiano, man's command Bibiano. It's a preparation anything. The law has to deal with you. Nti
Ghana for big so by no and why? Because some of them also believe that there were cases corruption related cases. They were on trial. Now Ghana for big and Kamoba ye mobe twaso. And so the Attorney General Ejas answer me bebremu meno say people in the former administration boom and a prosecution koso omo adwumadia won be di but in the lives of Opuni Mone we can mention them Magongo Mone the keka ho ato force mu cases nyina it was on trial but then the Attorney General showed no interest and you can say ebano ketasise no proya aban we no
don't stress yourself with this much here. President Mahama and the NDC, we respect rule of law. One of the things that President Mahama will never do, NDC appointee Ibia will never do, is to interfere in our justice system. We want to allow due process. We want to see a court system that is working for justice. And that's what we are doing. So one of the things that we do, or people who are into legal will tell you that, or the reading committee will tell you is this. Natural justice will prevail. People must be what? Must give a fair hearing. The process must be made to go through properly. You can't hear one side, pick one story, and then conclude. That's why people are allowed to be taken to their gods. And to say, Echo court to them, what do I come and win coupon? What can one send to win coupon? Judge not run or you was a sitting yame. Some po over the chasemi told the Eddie Bona, or my queen de court. E could do what? Can one send to win coupon on tail? Or my quanda, before a lawyer, a right to attorney. Say lawyer no be defendo. No, abandon or abandon the bidding of quantifying. No, but quite could be no head. My brother, what the brother to due process will be followed. We be tell, we call witnesses. Now, it might come to me yet. No, we know what to run any. That's a Eddie for an Eddie Bima. Eddie Michael baby. Eddie for so I'm running so one for subscription for mount. As I say, I mean, KD, the fact that corruption, I say. It doesn't mean that a business will cook stories. Because court done judge, you know is not, he's immune to any emotions. I hope one soon my judge in humor. One soon judge in humor. As I say, the judge is immune to all these things. More here, hardcore evidence. And in the criminal prosecution, beyond a friend lawyer, and maybe a be a young catch or day. Yen Ghana Hano, a prosecutor something, not the prosecutor aspect. So, you prosecute to the burden of proof beyond reasonable doubts of your criminal offense. It lies with what? The prosecutor. I'm a prosecutor, I'm a prosecutor, you know. I must prove the case The ampara that will come from we or I must adduce everything that will make my case right against you.
Evidence be
some produce. So me bana mad some nimu ya haro. Me the former state attorney and an deputy. I am saying they were not doing the right jobs. Most of the cases they sent to the courts, they were all lazy approach. And how can you send someone to court? Now fear because no evidence who case him because you want to satisfy a political party's ambition? No. That is how come when another person comes and has to go on appeal or look at the merit of the case, you don't have substantial evidence to go down. We don't commit somebody just like that. Here, a kidnap court, the judge is a different person. More like immortal person. As I say, because he doesn't see whatever you were saying unless you have been adduced evidence. And see, today, now when they be in there, yeah, my question why I saw America, yeah, what's we going
to America?
Asat May and our file an appeal. Where Ubuano convicting absentia, what start the case no, start convicting as somewhere April 16th April 2024. By May was absent of the country, no file appeal through her lawyers. The state attorney then opposed it. But for then and the workers they opposed it. But court shows there, in Rebia ni Ghana high embra pony much there. So be ni ha on to me then on make appeal. Because actually in absentia, so you can still go ahead and then make an appeal. No more quan. Appeal ni ya hen NDC aban na ye na Tony no was share appeal na say maame no embra kwando no yan constitution ma kwande obi a mpo convict dem a wontumi no kwando ya appeal enim ne boni de pefe na so or ya appeal because nobody can stop him. So come to that bona, nobody will stop you from making appeal. You can make appeal to your case if you think that your case wasn't heard fairly. No, also why you appeal since May 2024. Any power was the cantonment to scour the quay. My men were fair witnesses. God deals with those things. And that's for by no, that's the empire can't scour the brain. No, a be a wound there on any charge sheet, no sooner. But I don't commit to no. My men, he didn't authorize payment of any money. My cars are shine 350. Never market price ni. A ban for Abba. Eba now papa ya kwat na America offend them po. Ken Friata. Them time the man Brent Rustica in Shire so MP. You know the role he played. That's what you one hour that's for no. Yeah, but they reviewed MPP reviewed the what? The whole contract. While we inflate one prices. While authorizing one payment. And say why are you why didn't I authorize payment? Now if you scan said them authorize the payment of money. Let's authorize and due process. Not the meantime.
But all these were heard in
and secured conviction. Did you listen to the interview that the lawyer of said Namtamako granted this afternoon? I said they attacked the judgment itself, and they also raised questions on the due process. As I say, one way that the court can grant you remedies after your judgment has been given, if natural justice wasn't followed, if the due process wasn't followed, were you heard properly? Was there any procedure that was jumped by the trial judge? So now there were evidence to prove that. Why not? And they said, "Nami, amaya who frubi, amaya who frubi na appointed into samaya kubi aba. Let's do a showman job. Then you prove you there. You by chance and this bugum. That's what now court. That's why try no. A can be our own breach in human rights. None of kwadibi ni ma. It doesn't mean because we are competency she cannot appeal.
But the
let's get it right.
The state attorney, Dr. Ayeni, is saying, sir, he believes the High Court had merit. A conviction, the jail term, or the man, no, a case now, or more try or High Court, no, verdict by, not a merit. And he's going to the Supreme Court.
Papa na.
Papa no kasa was say or secure for stay of execution. It was so now what to be.
It doesn't matter.
It matters.
As will go every length as it goes. What say the made him 84. Papa ya Akufo-Addo, sorry President Akufo-Addo, former President Obegun the bank here. Una now for a second Obegun the bank here. Papa
you go the bank.
Una be white here na osun. Papa go Indum group Indum. Obegun the bank.
Akufo-Addo go the bank.
No, one go the bank.
Na some no work say Bank of Ghana. Assign
me brother ani kasa when we be go bank no or be justify any na can factor okasa I won't say Ken no justify na ni ha. We saw Ken justifying why he collapsed those banks. On my reasons.
Tie.
According to over 22 million.
The license has been restored. Actually, Bank of Ghana signed.
So I'm saying the same thing.
Why? Because omitted the standard.
So who took it back to the Supreme Court? When the appeal court granted Indum the license back and the thought to go and operate, who took it back to the Supreme Court? The state attorney is for us. Or your minor, Nidia. I did be your minor if it was a that's an individual right to go to court and do whatever it is. Now, you separate the executive from the judiciary. Judiciary, instead of us to focus on what the judiciary has done, that we are near the executive for forum. We can't be doing this. The judiciary you see there is a whole institution on its own. It's a different arm of government. They are on their own. They even have the subversive power to have oversight responsibility over the executives and even the legislature. The one of the I'm just going to say very powerful is the judiciary. Judiciary not can wasm. One wonder over the peri human rights is protected. Peri by your money because that is the only institution when it fails we are doomed. No way we need Juma. Executive no be no kotna bench or pass judgment. You am on pass judgment. Ayeni on pass judgment. None of the executives is at the bench.
But Kobe.
Somebody said judiciary why Juma. Don't focus on that. But we are trying to the executive.
When you were in opposition, you were criticizing people in government. And what some of the decisions are court etiki.
Can you remember one of the examples of the things that we're criticizing? When somebody can wake up one evening, one night, the new speaker and the boss, Wama ruling what parliament, where declare seat vacant. No, but also within 3 hours, obey a judgment to have a back to quash speaker's decision. We are in the some questions, sir. Yes, yeah. And then one defense minister. Often is it McMahon? What's the name? Ajimamenu, right?
Ajimamenu, former health minister.
Make him about 10%. No, you're not make a defense minister.
Nitiwul. Dominic
Nitiwul.
Yes.
No, one of them. Your Minister of Interior, Minister of what? Defense.
Yes.
One of them. Or the BB menu, right? He came to. I didn't know. Video leak by some time ago. And Kaya. Oh yeah, leak video be my abayano how na.
That's the national security.
Kandapa, yes. On that BB by the etwa na akai. And then them papa no ma Akufo-Addo, President Akufo-Addo then. And an urban one in there. The way judgment all in favor of the ban or to all the time, you know, it is security what threat, it's raising security alarm to people. So it wasn't the NDC that saw the obvious things that were happening from the emanating from the courts. So basically, on your kasa near the judges then our court system then, everything was rotten. Everything at the time, let's be truthful, was rotten by then. That's how come people were naming them unanimous FC. But today, you are not Tolon MP, a high court, or question offending. In fact, or declare in there, election or coin, null and void to uncut the fee. Tolon MP or MPP, but he went back to the courts of appeal and was restored. That's a system that we know it's working. Fight for your rights. When you fight and you're able to prove your case and secure victory, that's it. By the NT, ya ba bani no be cook story begu. Said nam tamaklo ni case no. If it had any merits, and our appeal court would have still seen that these are the merits of the case. Intimidated attorney. Dr. Any, no, you're being focused. Say, Ninta say, in the courts, appeal court, appellate court in the Yejuma. He has every right to make sure you go back to the court to seek proper understanding of proper.
I think it's the Pandai MP, no, now.
No, it's not Pandai. Tolon MP. Tolon, is it not? Yeah, Tolon, right? I think it's Tolon MP.
Okay.
As I say, when you go to Upper East, yes, Tamale, from Tamale you go to Tolon. On that same, they could declare the Dab City if they could buy elections. But they fought hard when to appeal court. So it shows how fair and
so
balanced the court is.
For me,
so what I'm saying is simple.
On the case of Sedina,
what I'm saying is simple.
Because the
MP, Martin Yinam, yes. Thank you for helping with
Yindam.
It's as a Tolan MP, right? Thank you. Now, basically, what I'm saying is simple. Yenti and once from our constitution, I can article 1 to article 2 kusia. Obia will right to a fair hearing. Obia will right to make sure say eko court wasem wate wonka. It's as what do could na court what do come on yankopon was asido. Ko kan wasem na yankopon ntew. Ono wetu set to free. So wasem e de wa. Ono wetu aka de no. We bukun for me was twini. Wasem e de o. E de man na wu. Aye de madi. Said nam also any part of them that would to me all your appeal na. So some no say can attorney general state prosecutor go for them na napamfo. So where a shoddy work at Baba. It isn't that it lies in the hands of the man I know who is our attorney general right now, Radome Kadota. He's a principled man that you can't be pushed around. He's very principled that you cannot just pass anything through his face. Let's accept it because also why do you need credibility integrity up to date? He has that high moral integrity.
Kobe, Mame you take on Supreme Court's ruling, EFA delegate system, no hona yemfa komono embrevi.
Oh, now we just all agree on one thing. We all saw how people were buying motorcycles, people were buying TVs, people were buying cars. We saw how they've monetized our system. Now same I mean who want people want more presidential prime minister okoye. No. Okwechi. Senda Grafoje motorbike. What the cement? What the what next?
Matthew Nyindam is Pandai
MP.
Yeah,
okay. Pandai. Okay, fine. Pandai MP.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward. You know, election a year kono. As I told you earlier, there, political parties, we are the tool to recruit resourceful people that are well knowledgeable to come and take charge of our country's economy, like the likes of Atterforson. These are resourceful people, an astute accountant who is discharging good duties for the country. Like the likes of Dominic Kaini, like the likes of President Mahama. These are the kind of human resources that can build a nation.
You didn't mention your boss, Sami Jemfi.
Sami Jemfi, likes of Sami Jemfi, Gold Board. Look at the transformation. These are the high brains that we want political parties to recruit. Na say ja on there ye fasika deep pocket if ko ten by amanasem ma na ye botowa ye wosika ya the investment bank it has sponsors and yamba finance minister to krom ha we shall see what we saw in the last 8 years. Last 8 years the kind of human resources that we recruited to man our country, that was the result. You say yeah monetization film na ye fund there since yeah is customer film. Now we are going to base on people's high mental fortitude, your ideas, what you've learned, your skills, your profession. Then we shall have the right human resource to lead our country. And we shall have the result like what Urata Forsen, Sami Jemfi, President Mahama, and the likes of Joseph Bramund, what they are delivering. They are delivering professionalism, they are delivering on high integrity, they have high moral standard. Mr. KD said, you need a brain for investiba. And once you shall see a quality of a human being, the other one to be different. Now the quality of your human resources, you to enjoy and show that security should influence everything. It will open up. It I say now looking at the base, looking at the quantum of people that are involved as voters, I don't think that somebody will have that chunk of money to be able to pay everybody because I have money, even if you are dumb. excuse my language. You have money, even if you can't think right. You have money, even if you cannot reason properly. Because of your money, you should allow you come and lead to have some kind of a best performance for us. No. You're telling me, say, we're caught of bassin or their brain. What for us, I'm who I didn't think proper. Them say me now, Kodo. You saw how people could prioritize a cathedral over a hospital, a cathedral over a children's vaccine. How people were, see where things were being done. And we saw that are they these people with the high mental for that we are trusting them with our destiny? Because 1 year, 6 months of a leader in your life. 6 months of a leader in your life can change so many things. As I say, yeah, by within just 1.5 years, once 1 year, 7 months or 8 months now. Look at how stabilized the economy, exchange rate, all right, inflation, all right. Look at how we've been able to make sure that all our debts that they left on us have to be serviced. Look at how we've been able to fast for the IMF on us. It means that we need to hire the right kind of people to do the accounting. So me say, I am for all this that the Supreme Court has given us.
Okay.
There's another victory for democracy.
Okay.
Now let's make sure prepare ourselves within the 1 year giving. Okay. Now the people that went as plaintiff, they sit for two things: the parliamentary elections, and then the presidential primaries that we go for.
Yes.
And say you told me them are the corrector. We shall elect the right people to be in parliament to argue properly, not to go and sit on the floor. No one did it. One tone them. Not to boycott parliament anyhow. When they have to stay and argue to benefit their constituents. We shall have the right people to lead as president, not anything to come and lead a political party as a president. Because here, everybody will have a voice in electing or selecting those people to come and lead the country.
Copy be that said. You know, so name siaka phones, and the one phones in Ibiaba. And tis a phone be a crowd no how phone in speed, phone no swa. But the also bedrop is our phone and no pay on a phones nibi. Ye war on a plate 10 on a 5C on a X6C. Etwatwaswa kopem on a R400 on a 600 light on a 600 Pro. Enti bomodi answer on sabe count there. Siaka phones as a friend. So pedo do an answer per baku menu be a usuno. On sabe count every Siaka phones 0240 591 661 0240 591 661 it's 0242 487572 on our phones no papa bomodi ana pebi na UC. Season 2 of the Oluban Boogie dance competition, and we say Crofasha here for may show interest. And T baby will be ano, say what in fear a dunum enum 55 years and above. Na ohusisu huso, we shall not be to me dear say ye padia, and yana brana befa form, our top radio, top TV for free. Forms no, free. Bomodian so be to me about befa dear. Now so become competition no, na Gen Z, men no ba bechrem say before there was Gen Z na Gen A ho on bechrem boogies pa na very interesting a shasia it will come on your screens na about no atimi akokọ so our favorite etimi winia achede akese na yede ma wono na ye gina so e de age ni ye pa and so 55 years and above over top radio top TV obetimi abefa form for free now so be cancer competition ni 55 years and above. For number yi opese obeka sponsors no ho a ana opese oni management edin komo efa dwumadi ehu a ye nya abotre ahyehyɛ mu na ye no adimu enkomo. Number ne 0503 711 344 0503 711 344. Abuja kwa homa no so obetimi afresh abre na wode wadwen kyeraba 0303 944 864 0303 944 864. Let me first call at near Quedim. Hello, good evening.
Hello, evening.
Maybe I told you baby your casa free.
But you're from Prakasa primary aristocrat.
Kwame Yanko.
Enemy Abu Juma, one who producers, Namin Chaman boss. A quadrosion. But sitting at a Malco Nasaman. And anyway, Mr. Bois for Casa and Mr. Cantaman to Scabinian. Take the speakers, maybe we as a witness too. In a bar court, or more confirms, yes, them Sicano or Mosa kind. Intino, we have a cousin, a good father, Mimbo, and a good father, Mambo, Mbuya, Madame, and a fashion. Madam Madden and 2 Obia. The same strategy, you know, on the Maui, I'm at 2,000. And then go for 2,000, but later, and I could shoot Mom now, no more castle, or in the normal fantasy and panel. As any blame woman, I make a bear, make I say, from a Chino go, you know, a big house, but first sticker. I know I am much rock with water. Or bad, they can be dance there, and yet said the number authorizes can be other one here. But a young woman now, more than we do almost rather trade them to come. Now, we're going to one who trade them to inflate you. One moment, more, but 7 number of the age.
Okay, but before you. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Maybe I should deal with your casa feeling to you.
The family share the
okay.
Master Kobe, some now can help you before corrupt one. Baba Jamani Mahani, wouldn't care much last 3 years. 3 years now, much a coach. Yeah, to try this way. The Kogumina, Monk, and the Grandy for Munamu condemned. No bomb, Manica, and Macau will be quiet and I will doubt it. Baba Jamo, be any Mamuka, more money, empty. The bois. Master Kobe, you are in church. Fancy, fancy. Baba Jama want to send your mamma go find Tanka. Mamma Bomuka, the more times, more on the Mount Mobile entity to the Munala entity entity. The big you know to the book father. For the Mount Chad.
All right. But that's it, Bobibra. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Maybe I told you about your casa free too.
Good evening, first lockdown.
Okay.
The patrol, who, yesterday was wrong. Sabi. Se ko entaru hu na entaru wada fuwa. Ena ubo mu se fu. Wo je communicate avec your worker. Court. Ya court about the one issue we. 70 something cases. 70 something cases in the harbor. And you are sitting down defending corruption. It's a shame. Please. You are defending corruption. This same corruption that two people fought over. Who can say because of that the Cotiora and Kujatomo, some judgment, they spoke bitterly about it. What we are going to tell them who defend the same corruption.
Okay.
The same corruption, because the rest to the same. It's a shame.
But that's it. I see a brother so. What's the day?
Listen, man, Indima, let's separate the judiciary from the executives. So, a man penny make a decision policy or a policy maker, make a policy implementer. So, man penny implement the policy B. That's a policy on Tasoma. Then we can attack the man penny. Nana pamfu. So, Parliament, when they make any law, na law on Dreabwa and on Dreabwa, then we can attack the Parliament. But whenever there is judgment, we could net and rough for him. No can ask my family for fall executive. Let's separate the three because or Subenich.
All right, I was young the best year. Now, many now coupon yard next week Monday over Timinka. Final point, Jumediana Brew or Bedini Kusida Moa Frebe KD. The show will produced by the Nigerian Berry Mother Senators, executive producer, Mr. Roger Tete, Mr. T. Etayachi, Mr. Kwasipua for international editor 1, Body Crokwami Ahin, Father Mache, social media no Foxy, and a production in a Nankupon Yard by Bessan Swishia, Macrao.
Nagana Bayo, and you Ghana ya sase batana, Yamieshra no da, Wamanu near my penny nala.